If you are a fan of the American sports leagues like the NBA, NFL, NHL or MLB, you know that one of the most exciting parts of the season is the draft. Seeing young players enter the big leagues is fun, comparing past and present draft classes is entertaining, and correctly predicting potential draft steals or busts can feel rewarding, which is why it is unfortunate that there is no such thing in tennis. But for this video, I think I have found the equivalent to the draft in the tennis world, and is the Junior Grand Slam title winners and their promotion to their respective tours. So today I'm going to compare every tennis draft class of the 2010s to figure out which year brought the most talent to the tennis world. I'll also rank all the players from each year from best to worst to make things even more spicy. With that being said, I feel like the premise of the video is pretty understandable, but if you are still confused, I think you'll get it as we go along. Starting off in 10th is the class of 2012. That year the list of Junior Grand Slam winners was tragic. Not to be too disrespectful, but 5 out of 7 winners are genuine no-names for a tennis fan who only follows ATP and WTA tours. Filipe Livo is the worst of them all, and he somehow won 2 major titles on Juniors tour. Then it's Samantha Crawford, who I've genuinely never heard about before. Kimmer Kopejans is a Challenger Tour royalty at this point, but I assume that expectations were much higher than that in 2012. Annika Beck had the best singles Grand Slam results out of all of the no-names, but that doesn't mean much, to be honest. Luke Saville is a doubles Grand Slam finalist, and that is cool, but that's not enough. And with that, we've gotten to the players that most of us have actually heard about. The second best player of this class is Genie Bouchard, who had that insane 2014 season, but that was more of an outlier year rather than her being actually one of the world's best in the long run. Which is why I chose doubles Grand Slam champion, doubles world #1 Taylor Townsend as the best junior Grand Slam champion of 2012. And I mean, I think now you can understand why this class is ranked 10th on the list. But to be fair, the class of 2016 isn't that much better. Headlined by Felix Auger-Aliassime and Denis Shapovalov, you should already know that they are not to be taken seriously. I mean, the winner of the Australian Open, Oliver Anderson, was busted for match fixing the next year after winning it. Vera Lapko had an injury-riddled career. Geoffrey Blanconneau never ascended above the challenger level. Kayla Day at least made the top 100 and stayed in the proximity of it for 2 to 3 years. Rebecca Massaro is still there in the top 100 and has even made the WTA final in her career. Anastasia Potapova looks like she can barely count to 10, which is unfortunate, but the good thing is that she has won 3 WTA titles in her career, which makes her the third best player of this class and brings us to the Canadians, Denis Shapovalov in second, and the best player of 2016, Felix Auger-Aliassime. In 8th, we have a very top-heavy class of 2011, but before we get to the top, we have to talk about the stinkers at the bottom. Oliver Golding and Sophie Mestach or Mestach are 2 players who I genuinely didn't know about before today. Grace Min made the top 100 once upon a time, but still somehow didn't play a main draw match at all of the Grand Slams. Nowadays, Bjorn Fratangelo is a Grand Slam winning coach and a trophy wife to Madison Keys, which is cool, but it doesn't make him a great player though, but he was decent on the Challenger Tour, I must admit that. Luke Saville is here once again as he won junior Grand Slam titles in 2011 and 2012. Jerzy Vesely will be remembered for being undefeated against Novak Djokovic and doing that with a beer belly. And now we have reached the top where we have Ons Jabeur, who unfortunately wasn't able to win the big one on the Pro Tour. But still, her flashy, tactically sound and entertaining playstyle will stick with tennis fans for a long time. But at the top spot of this class is the 3-time Grand Slam champion and now retired former WTA world #1 Ashley Barty. She retired in 2022 at the age of 26 with 15 main tour titles, undefeated in the singles Grand Slam finals and being at the #1 spot in the rankings for 121 weeks. So she is full on carrying this class on her shoulders. Now that we got stinkers out of the way, in 7th I have the class of 2017. And to be fair, this year has produced 4 solid players, but the bottom part is lacking a bit. As the 8th best player of this class, I have Whitney Osigwe. Maybe I'm misremembering things, but I feel like when she was coming up there was some hype behind her, but unfortunately as of this moment she hasn't met the expectations. Sompor Piros looks like a perpetual challenger player, apart from the odd entry into a clay ATP 250 tournament that nobody wants to play. Claire Liu hasn't done much of note on the pro tour, but she did almost reach the world top 50, so I kinda have to respect it. Wu Yibing is a tough one because the difference between his career and Liu's is marginal, but I do think that he has the ability to come back to the top 50 in the rankings, which is not something I can say about Claire, so Yibing is ranked higher here, and I guess we can treat that one title that he won in Dallas as the tiebreaker here. Now we have reached the 4 solid players of this class, first one being Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Again, not to be disrespectful, but Alejandro is a bit mid, which is not bad, but in my opinion there is no way in which he can ever reach the top 10, for example. Still, he is a very decent player, that good type of mid, and the fact that he hasn't won a title yet doesn't help him either. Similar things can be said about Marta Kostyuk, but she is younger and she has a higher ceiling in my opinion, and she has won that title, so I am ranking her above the Spaniard. Again, Alexei Popyrin is on the same level as previously mentioned players, but he has that Masters trophy, so it clinches him a spot as the second best from 2017. Cause in first we have the most improved player of 2025, Amanda Anisimova. Everybody knew before and knows now that she is super talented, but it was always about her having the potential to do big things until 2025 came. 2 Grand Slam finals, WTA 1000 Qatar title, reaching the career high 4th spot in the rankings simply shows that she is above everyone in the class of 2017. Winners of the Junior Grand Slams in 2015 are pretty similar to be honest, but they have 2 players who have been at the top of the game, so they edge the higher ranking for this class. As the 8th pick I have Sofia Zhuk, and I'm going to be honest, there are 3 things that I know about her. First, she is now retired. Second, she was born in December of 99, which is the same as yours truly. And third, when she was active I remember thinking that she was pretty cute, but unfortunately it is not enough to be ranked higher here. Next up is Tereza Mikhalikova, who has become a doubles player with 2 WTA titles in her tally. Dalma Galfi has been lingering around the top 100 for 5 years now, which is alright but nothing special. Roman Safiullin is in the same boat, but his highs were a bit higher than Galfi, so he is above her. As the 4th pick I have Riley Opelka, and sure, he is just a serve bot, but he did serve bot himself into the top 100 for 6 years. And if he didn't have those wrist injuries, I'm sure that this run would have been at 8 years at this point. He also has a surprisingly good 9-14 record against the top 10, so even though he can be pretentious at times, he still has had a solid career. Honestly, the big 3 of this class could go toe to toe with any other, cause in 3rd I have Tommy Paul. He is just an unbelievable player when he is on. He and Carlos Alcaraz low-key had the most fun head-to-head matches on the whole tour in 2023. Tommy has obviously reached the top 10 as well, been a top 20 player for 3 years in a row now, which demands acknowledgement, but the player in the 2nd spot, Paula Badosa, has simply had higher highs. Number 2 spot in the rankings in 2022 being one of them. Injuries have messed up her career, there is no doubt about it, but still, even with that being the case, she achieved a lot in her career. And the number 1 player of this class is Taylor Fritz. And yes, he has never been as high as the 2nd spot in the rankings, but let's be realistic, he never really had the opening to do that. At the time when the top 2, top 3 spots in the ATP rankings were undisputed, Taylor still managed to win a Masters title in Indian Wells. He managed to reach the final of the US Open, multiple quarter and semi-finals of Grand Slams, 10 titles on his resume, look pretty good as well, so in my opinion he is clear-cut the best player of the 2017 class. The class of 2013 should be considered the what could have been class of the last decade, cause it had the potential to be even higher in this ranking, maybe even at the 1st spot, but injuries or simply lack of determination to be the best has them down in 5th. Even the worst junior Grand Slam winning player Gianluigi Quincy had at least a solid chance Challenger Tour career where he won 2 titles. Australian and the US Open champion Anna Konjuh has had a career and still has a career that is sabotaged by her injuries. And even through all of that, she somehow was as high as 20th in the WTA rankings at some point. Christian Garin won 5 tour titles from 2019 to 2021. In 2022 reached the quarterfinals in Wimbledon, but after that he has fallen off the cliff, to be honest. Nick Kyrgios had a Nick Kyrgios career that we all know about, and we all know that he should have done more with his talent. Borna Coric has been perpetually injured. His and Kyrgios' careers have been pretty similar, but again, Coric won that Masters trophy, so it gets him ranked higher than the Australian. And as the best player of this class, I have Belinda Bencic. I mean, the Olympic gold alone wipes all of the previously mentioned players' careers. But to add to that, she had a career high of 4th place in the rankings, 9 titles with 2 of them being 1000 point tourneys. She has been a borderline top 30 player for 10 years, so there is no doubt that she has had an excellent career that lands her as the best player of 2013. I'm not going to lie, I won't be surprised if y'all disagree with my placement of this group of players, cause just outside of the top 3 I have the class of 2019, and it is top heavy, I must admit. Cause as the 8th pick I have Jonas Forete, who at this point is a challenger level doubles player and an ITF level singles player. Daria Snegur is someone who we have all forgotten about after her win against Simona Halep at the US Open in 2022. Shintaro Mochizuki is a challenger level guy, you might remember him for taking a set against Casper Ruud in Tokyo this year. Camila Osorio wins titles exclusively on her home soil in Colombia, but other than that she is a solid player at best. Leila Fernandez was involved in the most surprising Grand Slam final of recent memory against Emma Raducanu at the US Open, but it's not the only thing that she has accomplished in her career. 4 titles in total, 7 mil prize money, and career high of 13 spot in the rankings is good enough to consider her young career a solid one. Honestly, hers and Towson's placement can be interchangeable, and I would change them around, but I won't lie, I'm just a bit lazy and I don't feel like changing the graphics right now. But as the second pick of this class I have Lorenzo Musetti, and he might be a more consistent player on day-to-day basis than the one in the top spot, but if we look at their careers as a whole, Holger Rune is just simply better, which is why he is the best player of this class. Rune has more titles, has a Masters title, and was runner-up in other 3 such tournaments, has a higher career higher ranking, and in the last 4 seasons he has always been above Lorenzo. So in my opinion there is not much of a discussion as to who has been the better player out of the 2. Starting off the top 3 I have junior Grand Slam winners from 2010. It is a boring class, but a good boring if you know what I mean. Nevertheless, let's go through them all pretty quickly. Thiago Fernandes and Agustin Velotti are 2 guys who I genuinely don't know anything about. Kristina Pliskova has a sister that's much better than her, and to be honest that's her biggest accomplishment. Daria Saville is one of the tennis players of all time, and honestly same can be said about Marton Fucsovics. But the top 3 is where the carry job starts. Jack Sock was one of the best doubles players of the decade and had that miraculous run to the ATP finals where he won Paris Masters, which was fun. Karolina Pliskova reached the top of the rankings in 2017, won 17 titles in total, but never won the big one, which is not ideal, but still, she had a very solid career. And at the top spot, maybe controversially, I have Elina Svitolina. These 2 women had very similar careers, and yes, Elina never reached the #1 spot like Karolina did, but I do want to reward the consistency and the fact that she was able to win the WTA finals, which ranks somewhere in between winning a Grand Slam and a 1000 tournament, but I can understand if you have a different opinion on this ranking. Finally, after a long wait, we have reached a class where we have a Grand Slam champion, because in 2014 the Junior Slam winner list was pretty stacked. 4 of the 8 players here have been top players on their respective tours since 2015 it feels like. But still, there were some obscure players who won their juniors titles as well, like Elizabeth Elizaveta Kulichkova, who is someone who I never heard about before making this list. In 7th I have Noah Rubin, who was a standard challenger player, but you might remember him for tearing his shoe in a match against John Isner. Omar Yasika is a player that had a similar career, but he was banned for 2 years for using coke, so I guess that's at least unique. Considering that she is only the 5th best player from this year's champions, Marie Buskova is a very solid player. Very respectable player in singles and even better one in doubles, so I would say that she is the best number 5 in comparison to any other year. In 4th I have another solid WTA player, Daria Kasatkina. Honestly, there is nothing special about her game, but she somehow keeps a respectable ranking and wins tournament, so you simply have to appreciate it. Next up, it's Andrei Rublev, and for all his flaws that we all know about, I have to acknowledge that he has been a top 10 player for the majority of the last 5 years. Also, he has won 2 Masters titles, so this type of consistency is commendable, but above him I have a guy who has been called by many as the best player to never win a Grand Slam. And I'm not 100% sure that I agree with it, but I cannot deny that Alexander Zverev is at least significantly better than Rublev. And now you might be confused as to who could be above the German. Well, I suggest you wipe off that confused look off your face, cause at number 1 I have a Grand Slam champion in singles and Grand Slam champion in doubles. It's Aryna Sabalenka. And if you disagree with this, I won't listen to you until you show me a player with a Grand Slam title, baby. And finally, in the number 1 spot as the greatest year of the junior Grand Slam champions of 2010s, I have the class of 2018. It is top heavy, but the top has combined 8 Grand Slam titles, so there is just nobody better than them. The other 6 winners from this year are a bit suspect, to be honest. Starting off with Liang and Shuo, who I haven't heard of, then it's Wang Jiu, who can be described as mid at best. Jason Tseng is a challenger level player. Thiago Seyboth Wilch has a fun name to pronounce, but he is a dodgy guy, so that is not ideal. Sebastian Korda can be good, but he is always injured, so it's hard to rate him. And as the top 2 we have Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek. Coco has been great since she was 12, it seems like, and Iga Swiatek is on the GOAT level career trajectory, so there is simply nobody better than them and the class of 2018. Let me know what you think of these rankings in the comment section down below. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video, cause I definitely had fun with it. Also, let me know whether I should run this idea back with different decades, and as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, take it easy, my friend.